So welcome to the CAMS DataGateway portal deployment meeting. Yay! This is a long time coming. We've been working on this, the modernization of the Countywide Address Management System for goodness, 2-3 years now, something like that. And this is sort of the soft release of the deployment of a submission portal that'll replace what was previously implemented that required a lot of security protocols and blah, 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 that we don't need to worry about anymore because we have this portal. So again, my name is Rachel Marquez. I work for the Enterprise GIS group within LA County in the ISD department. And my partner in crime and assistant for the next few months while I'm out on medical leave is Shannon. Shannon, would you mind saying hi so you get your voice?
Hi all, so good to see so many of our coworkers here. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for showing up.
So Shannon recently got hired with the EGIS program, so she can be your resource now for all things Enterprise GIS at LA County. Feel free to bombard her with questions, but know that she is taking on a lot of workload there. So the original CAMS program mission. The original concept was to create sort of a data repository for the entire county to use for planning, analytics, all related to addressing data because it is a primary reference source or a critical data set that is embedded in way too many workflows within not only city governments, but county governments, state governments. So it just made sense to have a centralized repository that everybody can share and use together to have at our disposal. So what do we really want to get out of the CAMS program? We want to have 100% address quality. And what that really means is a current address, which means there's minimal delay between an address getting assigned to an address being within the repository. That is critical for a lot of workflows, particularly, children and family services, public safety, those types of use cases. We want a complete address, which means no part of the address is missing, such as unit numbers or other types of information, such as the directional on the street names. And we want a correct address. We want to make sure that the address has the correct spelling as the city dictates it and the correct formatting and all those types of components. So I embarked on a modernization program when I got hired about 3+ years ago. And really the modernization goals were to increase the ease and decrease your guys' time in submitting data into this repository. We wanted to increase the efficiency, effectiveness, and adaptation of data quality within the actual workflow of submitting data. And then one of my other goals was to support you guys throughout the entire life cycle of the address creation and assist you in developing the best practices you can for your jurisdiction to assign addresses and to provide you resources for challenging cases that you might come across. So as a part of that, we did, individual interviews with certain cities, to come up with how we could better support you. We have put on training sessions that are all available online. We have an abundant amount of resources available to you, and also us all collectively can help build and support each other in the knowledge transfer as new staff gets onboarded, how to address appropriately, what are the best standard practices, what does the U.S. Postal Service expect, what does public safety expect from an address, all those types of things. So those were my main goals in the modernization. What really came from that was this portal. One of the easy things that we could take care of was getting a portal for your cities, your jurisdictions, to submit the existing address information that you have into CAMS and run some basic quality checks against it. So those quality checks we'll get into a little bit later, but they include ensuring that some of your address fields are valid. You know, making sure that there is no extraneous characters in, say, the or in the number fields or in the road names, those types of things. So this is what the portal looks like in the sign-in page. It's very fancy. This portal was developed by our contractor, One Spatial. They are hosting the platform and supporting us in developing this quality checks and validations that we'll talk about in a little bit. So some basic vocabulary. Users, you guys probably all know what that is, but within the portal itself, it's based on named users, and they're registered with a name and email address or set by the administrator. So over the next few months, Shannon is going to be the administrator that can assist you with all username accessibilities. And then there is data contributors / suppliers, which is a grouping of users that can be assigned various projects. So this was a change that we did from our experimental deployment that we had last week. We actually decided to set each city as their own data supplier. What that means is that you can get multiple persons within your city the ability to submit and quality check data. So you have that redundancy, you have that ability to have multiple people working on different areas and submitting different areas as needed within the CAMS repository. So an assignment is a project of work, a package of work that a user has been assigned. So within the DataGateway portal, we have multiple projects, multiple assignments. We'll go into those in a little bit. A submission is what you guys actually submit into the One DataGateway portal. Data mapping is also known as schema mapping, and all you high-tech GIS people will know the pain of some schema mapping. And so it's data that's converted between schemas from an external data source, which is your guys's schemas. However, your city manages your current address data set and your road segment data set, and the project schema, which is right now the NINA schema, and it will eventually be the CAMS final schema. And then One Spatial always talks in the terms of nonconformance. So nonconformance is really a check against a set of established rules, meaning that they don't meet the certain criteria that was established by the assignment. It's not good or bad. It's just for your own information to know that it doesn't meet necessarily the rules of the assignment, which, you know, would be a place that you guys could utilize some additional staff time to update or work on as you see fit before submitting into the repository. So we did create a CAMS DataGateway portal and user guide. We are also coming up with a frequently asked questions. Hopefully you guys will have some wonderful questions to ask us that we could add into the FAQ document. But this is available for you guys to use as you're getting set up within the portal. It'll walk you through the steps that hopefully Shannon will walk you through today. Thanks, Shannon. We do also have some resources for you guys available at the CAMS hub site. So yeah, Shannon has the hub site posted and the link. So I really appreciate that. Some of the resources we have, of course, the user guide. We have the original portal slide deck from when the consultants One Spatial walked through the original deployment. We also have the recording of that training. We have visualizations of the essential validation rule set, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Those assignments are the basic level that we expect of your address data and your road segment data to contain. And then we have the schema for the CAMS DataGateway portal. And this was requested last week, both not only for the portal itself, but some of you guys have used the original CAMS download data set to build your own address repository. And so we included also the schema of the original CAMS, just for your guys' reference, so you know if that's what you guys are using, what the fields sort of mean and are defined by. Those are works in progress, so if you see changes to them going on, please bear with us. Alrighty. There we go. So these are some of the projects / assignments that have currently been deployed. If you see the, what is it called? The thumbnail is different between the two main assignments at the moment. So we have a data quality assignment project, and they're calling it a change detection project. So here is what it looks like, or not what it looks like, that was previous screen. These are the main ones that we are giving you guys access to currently. The general data quality checks, which include the essential geometry checks of address points, and then the essential network checks. The essential network checks, there's two assignments of that particular one with the potential for an actual networked data set if your road segments are networked, or one that does not require any elevation information. We have some address point boundary verification that'll take your address points and ensure that they meet within the geographic boundary of either your jurisdiction or those types of things. And then we gave you guys the ability to do fishbone analysis pretty simply by running both your address points and road segments to better understand where some potential anomalies are within your data set, whether it's with the address points not falling in line with your street segments to and from address, or whether there's any crosses of accidental address points being assigned to the wrong house, those types of things. And then we also have a parcel ID assignment if you want to assign the parcel AIN number to the address point itself. There's a few others as well in there, but those are the main ones that we want you to run through. And then we have change detection. So what this project is to update CAMS. If you feel that your data is at a point that you want to submit and update the CAMS repository, you have the ability to just go ahead and submit it into the portal, both the address points and the road segments, and just have it so that we are able to take a look at it and incorporate it into the official CAMS data set. I guess I should stop and ask if there's any questions so far. Anybody have questions? All right, I'm gonna run through this real fast then. All right, so what the CAMS data portal results look like. So as it's running through the process of your assignment, it's going to come up with the valid features and some that are maybe not meeting the established rules. So this one in particular, it checks for duplicate features. And so right here, you know, there was a 96% conformance where 100% is required to move forward. So it's just a little threshold, which is not horrible for a large data set to run through. That's just what that result's going to look like. And then on the official page after you process a submission, then you'll have the ability to not only download the report, but also download an output of where those discrepancies or those non-conformance places are, so that you could take it back into your GIS and identify, okay, what is actually going on with this data set? Is this an error that we could correct because of just simple typing errors, or is this an actual issue that we might have to bring to a larger discussion? So that is basically all I had in my presentation. Shannon, did I give you enough time to pull up things you needed to?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, any questions, Rachel? You know, I'm sort of new to this side of the project, but is everyone here familiar with sort of like why we should be doing this, why it's helpful, what cities can get out of it? Rachel, I don't know if you want to mention like the funding opportunities.
Oh yeah, I guess I could talk about that. Okay, cool. Thank you, Shannon. Let me, here, I'm gonna jump in here, start resharing my screen real quick. Whoops, you guys don't need to see the FAQ at the moment. So in the CAMS hub page, there is tons of information, including our contact info here. It discusses a lot about the CAMS program, the background. You are able to get more information on address points, street segments, auxiliary data sets that we use, address standards, corrections. It can talk about incorporated cities, whether you're a contract city with a county or just a regular incorporated city, because there are some distinctions on that. But where Shannon was talking about is the Next Generation 911 funding. So this is a program getting put on by the state of California. They are implementing Next Generation 911 for the entire state in the next few months, as scary as that sounds. But they are offering funding for cities within Los Angeles County to update their road segments and address point information to meet the Next Generation 911 standard. So you can use your existing address data, the quality rules that we're providing within the portal, to provide justification to Cal OES on how much time your staff or a contractor or an intern that you want to pay is going to need to update your information, so that once it gets into the CAMS program, the CAMS repository, I could then send it up to the state in a easily transferable method. So the state's willing to fund the cities for this individually. You do need to contact Cal OES to get the full funding proposal and the explanation of resources, but I have the funding model linked here. I believe a few cities have already taken advantage of this funding source, and they're working through the process right now of their address remediation, which really means, you know, some of them are going through the process of reviewing their old planning documents and getting those addresses that might have been missed and putting them into the GIS, or doing field surveys and identifying what the unit numbers are within apartment complexes or strip malls or those types of locations that are a little bit more challenging to understand on paper. So that's a very exciting thing. Feel free to use it and abuse the Cal OES funding, because any work that you do supporting your road segment development and your address point development is really only going to help everyone in the larger picture, whether it's the CAMS program, whether it's next generation 911 in public safety, or whether it's, you know, shoot, even, what is that, animal care and control. You know, they also use our addresses to support. So I just want to put that plug in there, and thanks Shannon for reminding me. And also, if you want to find the resources for this project, we have the CAMS Modernization tab. We have the link to access to get a login for the portal itself, as well as the deployment documents. The FAQ is gonna probably go in here somewhere once it's fully developed. And then again, we have our contact information down here with the note that Shannon's going to be taking over for a few months for me. So is there questions at the moment?
Such a quiet group. All right. Plenty of time for the demo though.
Yeah. Thank you.
Feel free to take yourself off mute, leave a comment in the chat. Whatever, however, we're all working on this together. So, okay, I'm not going to show a lot that Rachel didn't show as a screenshot, but I will walk through these steps. Depending on how quickly things run is, you know, we'll see how far we get in this process. But anyway, so this is a scenario where I am logged in, I have a login because I requested it through the form. I activated my account. I think many of you are in that boat. Once you have your account, you can change your password, especially if we set up a temporary password for you. You can get that information here, and you can change your avatar to a cute cat if you want. But usually when you open up the screen, it'll go straight to my assignments, and you can see these different assignments that Rachel was talking about. So you can see those two thumbnails, data quality, and then this big red update button, because, you know, I think Mike, who's on the call, used to say, GIS is easy. You just hit the make maps button, and, you know, updating data is easy. You just hit the big red update button. So that's why that's there. So the first two, and they're kind of have this label of O1 and O2. There's actually two O2s, but that's what we recommend starting with. The essential geometry checks, essential network checks. The one that says no elevation will apply to many cities if you do not have that kind of M value and elevation aware routing. When it says network, it's really just your road segment data. It doesn't need to be a network data set. But if you do not have elevation built in, you want to go with this no elevation task. So you can submit to both, but you'll have more success with this one. So starting with the first one. Okay, so, okay. When you first open it up, it'll ask you to start a submission and upload a file, and you can see here an indication of what you want to add to match. So in this case, it's road, and then it's looking for a zipped file geodatabase, zipped Esri file geodatabase. So I have Lancaster's data here, and if you're here from Lancaster, thank you for letting us use your data. Upload, and then what it's going to do is it'll take you to the opportunity to configure the schema mapping. So we're going to match the road Nina template to the Lancaster, the city data address lines. So we're going to match to road center lines. So, so on the left side is the schema that we're matching to, and on the right side is the data I just uploaded. So these are the options for the data
Backwards.
I'm sorry, backwards. Okay, so this is what I just uploaded. This will be the city data. And then on the right, you're picking out which of the CAMS many data sets you want to match to. Is that right, Rachel?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so the
And
right is the CAMS. Okay.
yeah, and you don't have to match all of them. It's just
Right.
suggesting that you do, which is why we have the schema mapping or the schema documents within the hub site for you to reference what those various fields actually mean.
Yeah.
Because it is a bit challenging if you don't live in the world of schemas or road segments, address points every day.
Totally. So here's that kind of breakdown of the road centerline schema that we're matching to. And we're just kind of, you can reference the alias name to get a sense of what it is. We don't have a longer description here at the moment, but if you need any help interpreting these names, you can reference the Nina document here or reach out to us. I think we saved a mapping here. So once you've done it once, no, we haven't. Okay, hold on. I did not. So basically, like you go through and you do this, and I feel like we've all done this before if we work in GIS. We have to match, from L is left from address, from R is right from address. And I don't want to do this with all of you on the call right now. Because
I kind of did this just to show, this is
address, yeah.
This is Shannon's first time. I threw this at her like a minute before the meeting started. It doesn't take much to, really look at your data and see where it could cross the schema itself, because it's not that challenging. It's all really intuitive based on what your address schema is currently, compared to what it could be within the CAMS modernization schema and the Nina standard. They're pretty much very similar. They work relatively the same. There's just some slight changes, which is why we're providing you these portals and tools and resources to be able to, cross-validate and check your data against it, so that you can have confidence and say, yes, my data is meeting, these expected standards that have been set out. And it's rather simple to go back and forth between the two and get a better understanding without having to worry about data types, about field lengths, about all those other challenges that you have when doing this type of work in a traditional GIS environment. So you don't have to worry about all those other things. You could just identify which field is which field. It'll come up, populate, show you where the field isn't necessarily meeting where it needs to within the rule set available. But it's a work in progress. We continue on. And as long as we're all working together to make it a little bit better, then that's really the end goal, right?
Awesome. Okay, I think I got some.
Yeah, you got all the good ones.
I think I got all the good ones. So, okay, so here's the situation where we've got, and what's great is, at the city, you don't have to change your schema. It's just match what you can. And then we go to manage schema mappings and we save it. So we're going to call this like Nina Road. And then now this is available when you open this task again. Say you want to run it again after you've made some edits to see how, to compare the before and after of your work. You don't have to do the mapping process again. You can just apply the schema that you've already mapped. And one of the changes we've made is that, at the top here where I'm seeing CAMS City Submittal, that's our generic name, but each city should see, City of Lancaster or whatever your submission is. And so your schema mapping will be specific to you. And then you just say continue, I think. Do I need to hit apply?
Well, it's just
gonna hit continue.
Let's see.
Okay, we'll see what happens. So then it just starts running. This part is boring. And yeah, and then the output, well, I don't know, what's the next topic? Basically, you can leave the screen while it's running is one thing, because it'll keep running. And you can reference it at any time. Up here on the upper right, there's the number 5, and we can check for this one is running. I can see the little person running. And if you ever have a problem, you can go back and take a look and reference an error code. You know, and so that's all up here on the top right. There's a, you know, you can just click on this to see your submissions. I think the time means I just didn't actually end up submitting it. So, so this one's still running. You can go back to it. It goes pretty fast. Should go pretty fast. We had some comments from people saying it was taking a long time. If you feel like it's taking several hours, there might be an issue. Feel free to reach out to us. It might take a while depending on your data and depending on who else happens to be running it at the same time. But in theory, it shouldn't take a whole day or overnight or anything. It should take, minutes, not hours.
Yeah, and there is a file restriction limit of, I think we tested it up to 2 gigabytes of either address point or road segment information into the portal before it sort of started throwing issues. So just be aware of that. You might need, say, if you're running your entire CAD data set, your computer-aided drafting data set from public safety, and they have all the cities around you's data sets as well. It might take a while to run and you might need to clip it. So just a heads up on that one.
Yeah, topology database. So now I've got the submission screen, and you can see each one of these is a different task, and you can get information about the task. So check that global unique ID is populated. I didn't have that for any of them. Roads must have a route ID, got all those. So as you expand these, let's not be too short, that's funny. Check for loops. So I've got some loops in this data set. We've marked up loops. So you can get more information about each of these rules also on the hub site. Essential validations, this one, right?
Yes.
So you can read up on the different rules and the specifics. This is a document.
Yes.
Okay, so you can download that. And yeah, so then that's fun. You get kind of the feedback, but you can also view the results on a map to see where your problem areas are generally. And then each one of these layers, so we've got, this road center lines is what was submitted. And then we've got our markups. So in this case, we only have, I believe, markup point, markup line. I don't exactly know, but we've got whatever these markup layers are available for us to download, pull into our own GIS, and then use. So if we go to continue, completing submission, there's a couple things we can do at this point. We can view a report, and this is really great to kind of download, show whoever cares, the state maybe, what work has to be done to fix. It goes through and it talks about each action step. Roads must have a route ID, road geometry must not be too short. And then you get the errors here. So yeah, 1,700 nonconformances, 50 nonconformances. Can share that with whoever needs to know what you're going to be working on. And then this output will be a zipped file with a zipped file geodatabase inside, right, Rachel?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so it's a zipped file geodatabase. It'll export in the same projection that you uploaded. So if when you open it into your GIS software, it throws a projection error, just define the projection to whatever the normal one is that you use. It'll just use whatever you uploaded. And then the data itself will be these markup layers, kind of like what we saw on that map, which will be points and lines. And in the attribute table for those markups, you can see, you can just kind of like zoom around and do whatever your normal editing workflow is to address those errors. So Lastly, we can have our dashboard here. So you can track your conformance over time. Right now, I just have this one submission. I don't think I can really get more specific with it, but if you start using this and submit a couple times and show the progress, you can get these cute little sort of management friendly visuals for how things are getting better. I believe that's it.
Yeah, are there any questions so far? Is there a deadline as to when this has to be completed? So it's going to be a rolling deadline, essentially, is what I'm going to call it. Because addresses are not static information, they're constantly changing. A city can switch addressing or assign a new address on a daily, weekly basis. It's at whatever interval your jurisdiction really needs to facilitate their workload. So normally, if your city is not too development heavy and not adding too many, say, ADUs or other types of auxiliary developments, then maybe quarterly is acceptable. But if you're having a lot of development, frequent updates to road names, changes, those types of things, I'd say, weekly, monthly would probably be more appropriate. With the next generation 911 implementation, they're expecting by the end of the year, they're gonna start looking at LA County to be deployed in next gen, which means they want our data to be as current as possible, as current and complete as possible, so that they could start routing 911 calls based on the CAMS data set. So, yay! It's kind of scary to think about, but that's very exciting.
I see, Zachary, you've got your hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. So can you explain a little bit more the difference between the geometry network specs versus the update workflows? Like when do we use the update red button one? And when do we use the ones that you just demoed?
Yeah, so the update ones are if you feel that your data is 100% acceptable, that you don't feel that you need to do any data quality checks, you have already manually assigned the parcel IDs, done the boundary verifications, done all those types of GIS type processes, then you could just go ahead and submit it automatically. So run the update address process. And that'll just get it into the queue to be uploaded into CAMS automatically. So it's just you don't really have any knowledge or want to quality check your data. You just want to submit it and get it over with, which is sort of the workflow.
Well, or you've done the quality checks already and now you're ready to submit it.
Yeah, or you've worked on it and yeah.
So the data quality, it's kind of a closed loop. It's a service that is available for cities to use. It's recommended before submitting to CAMS. The only thing that's sort of required as far as the CAMS, in order to get your city address data into CAMS is the city submission. And this is just, it's a data push, and it will also note what has changed or what in your submission is different from what is currently in the CAMS database, because of updates or whatever else. Go ahead.
Sorry. So the quality checks are really more for us to verify that our data fits the schema, and then once everything checks out, then we do the update.
Yes.
So like when we run the quality check, it's not sending the data to you, CAMS, is it?
We would have access to it, but no, it's not sending the data to be submitted into the CAMS repository
Got
yet.
it.
So
Okay,
you
cool.
can run the data quality checks, because it's not only attribute checks that it's running, it's topology checks, it's you
Yep.
know, logic checks, those types of things that might go above and beyond what your current data is right now. You have those abilities to run those as many times as you need until you feel comfortable with your data set.
Okay, cool. Thank you for explaining that. And then can I ask one more question?
Yep.
So the update process, so we're doing the funding opportunity and we're working with a vendor to remediate our addresses. So we're going to end up with a NINA schema address set and road center line that's going to be completely different than what is currently in CAMS. When we run the update, is that enough to, you know, replace what's currently in CAMS with the new data, or do we need to communicate with you first?
It would be nice to know ahead of time before you submit that, but yeah, you could just
Okay.
go ahead and submit it and it's not that big of a deal. It's gonna look for the changes that have been made from the original CAMS, you know, what's existing in CAMS at this moment versus
Right.
what you're submitting. And then
Okay.
it'll make sure that that is the changes that we want to make, and then we'll go ahead and just incorporate those in if you guys are sure that that's what you want, and we'll make those changes.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and feel free to submit without too much fear at this time. It's kind of a soft deployment. There is a little bit of separation between, you know, what's on the other side of the submission and our kind of publicly available CAMS data and locators and such. We're all gonna learn from this process, and we're gonna figure out the best way to tighten it up, make it a little more automated over time. But at this time, you know, feel free to submit, and we're going to learn from what you submit, and we're going to learn from, you know, whatever happens at the county side. So yeah, it's not going to like nuke CAMS. If it's got a different schema, you're going to be fine.
Yeah. And then Patrick, did you want to get off mute and ask your question, or? All right. If not, I could go ahead and read it out loud. Is the data we provided in the past already in the system? So it depends when in the past you submitted the data. Most likely, if it was a bulk data that you sent to me, the answer is no, it's not in the system. Because by the time I got on board, the ability to bulk upload was no longer enabled within the CAMS program itself. So there has been no bulk uploading of data in the last 3 years. If it was previous to that, then I hope that your data was incorporated. That's really all I could say on that. It really depends on the time frame, as well as there is certain staff members that make changes to the data set if we realize that there has been a new development within your jurisdiction. And a lot of times they don't traditionally go and ask you for notes or what you actually addressed. So that's a challenge as well. So Zach asked, are the parcel numbers required for address points? We like to have the parcel numbers on address points, but no, it is not required. I think that is just informational check, because a lot of the county services is based on parcel and address. So when they're running the queries based on the CAMS data, they like to have that available. So. Is there any additional questions? I'm gonna go ahead and put Shannon in my, contact information, sorry. I did that very. And Shannon's going to be taking over this full deployment over the next few months. As a reminder, the Countywide Address Management System, the rest of the modernization is going to continue in about December. Hopefully we'll get everything closed up and cleaned up. So please expect another CAMS meeting at that point for us to talk about all the various changes. You guys could provide us feedback on this portal, and we could learn a little bit more from you guys on how you feel it's running or any changes you want us to make to it. So I really appreciate your guys' time. If there's no more questions.
Yeah, well, actually, I have a question. So we have in creating the user accounts, so we sort of have this public-facing IP for this application. It's just the way it is right now. We have had some bounce backs when we've tried to have, you know, what happens is if you request a user account, we're going to set you up on the system and then it'll email you a link to activate your account. We've had some of those emails bounce back. So we talked to the consultants, One Spatial, about it, and they, you know, asked/suggested that maybe this app be added to some kind of whitelist. And I'm not exactly sure how that works on the IT side, but if you're having any issues accessing this application because of security stuff, IT, feel free to reach out to us and maybe we can work with our consultant and your IT to figure out a solution. But I think we've had a couple agencies like figure out a way to get access. And I think ultimately we'll have a little more security on this app. But yeah, just feel free to reach out if you have any questions about that or anything else.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Shannon, for getting put on the spot and doing the live demo for me. I really appreciate it. I am very glad that you are here to support me in the CAMS program as we move forward. Any last questions from any cities? Anything you guys want to discuss or questions that you have about anything else related to the CAMS program? Now's our time. No? All right. Well, I'll give you a couple minutes of your life back. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. And I'll be posting the meeting recording on the CAMS hub site so you guys all can view this later in its thrilling entirety. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks all.